Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. The Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, coming up for you in just a second. We have a ton of recruiting content to go over. Commitments in, commitments coming, etc., etc. We also have our deep dive on Brody Lennon. But first, you guys are busy. You get home. You need dinner. You don't want to wait around. You don't want to throw in a TV dinner from the 70s like I had to eat, where you pick up the frozen Salisbury steak like in the beginning of Risky Business. No dice. Plus, you were always just waiting to get to the dessert that was in there, whatever that was. But you don't have to worry about this anymore. Factor meals. No prep, no mess. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer. They have a menu of chef-created meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. They're fresh. They are never frozen, dietitian approved, and they are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. The thing about Factor meals that I love is that I'm a little bit oogie on microwaving meats. You can do it. Factor meals has figured that out somehow. Chicken in the microwave can get oogie. Not at Factor Meals. It is absolutely delicious. Effortless support for your lifestyle. There's 6 menu preferences. You get to manage your calories. You can maximize your protein intake. You can avoid meat, or you can eat well balanced. Right now, head to factormeals.com/bucknuts50 and use code bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code bucknuts50 at factormeals.com. All right. That's a legit offer. Speaking of legit, look who we got here. It's been a while. Dave went on vacation, so this is show like what, 174 in a row for me, but you guys will not see me again, or these two guys actually, the rest of the week. July 4th, Bill and Mark will, of course, be doing their second jobs to fill in the gaps, but they will not be working for Bucknuts, which is good. They have the day off. Thankfully, all of our recruiting subjects have fallen in line here, and we have a ton to talk about. Let's go with this. On Tuesday's show, we looked at a couple defensive linemen and salivated at the idea of them possibly being Buckeyes. 48 hours later, both are committed to the good guys. Let's take this in chronological order. We got a lot to get to today, and we'll hit all these questions as well. But Trajan Odom, Maxwell Roy. Bill, if you could let us know how it all went down, and then Mark, do your thing as well, that'd be wonderful.
Well, the first one to jump in was Trajan Odom. That wasn't any big shock, but great news nonetheless. And after Mark going over his video, I think it was on Thursday, and all of us being very, very impressed, that's a huge addition. I think when you look at the rankings, depending on who you look at and how you look at him, he's either a high 3-star or a 4-star. But I think, as we were talking about on Thursday, we're all in on the 4-star there. Picked Ohio State over Oregon and USC. So that's important. And then Ohio State's not going to be playing against him. As we talked about on, I think it was Thursday, the crazy world of the Big Ten now. You beat out USC and Oregon for a kid, and that means you're not playing against him in the conference. So then they got, they wanted at least 2 defensive tackles in this class, and now they can feel very good about having 2 in the class. And I did a VIP Intel article this morning on Bucknuts talking about the possibility of others joining those 2. So they may not necessarily be done yet. As far as, we talked about Roy also, Maxwell Roy, that's also a huge win, in that a lot of people had him going to Michigan before he made that Ohio State official visit, giving Michigan the last shot on the weekend of June 21st and 23rd. Michigan didn't get it done. it's Ohio State that wins out. Always a good thing when you beat the team up north for a recruit that they absolutely wanted.
Impressive. They went out of state for these guys as well, North Carolina and Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. Mark, your thoughts on these guys? I know you were impressed at how they might kind of fit together.
What happened to my screen there? Yeah, they did work in a tandem. They filled two different spots here. I'm going to pull up an Odom video right now and send it to you. Should have just popped up over there, Dan. We can take a peek at him.
There we go.
Of course, we're doing a Buckeye in the sky on him. And what I noticed is inside the first couple clips I put are run plays where he's just going to blow past people and stop the run. I didn't realize he was 285 pounds. I think we watched his sophomore film when we watched it last week. This junior tape blew me away. If he's 285 pounds, that long and that skinny, he's just getting off the ball like a defensive end inside. I mean, he has a longer, like if you said you were going to put him on the edge, it would not bother me at all. And then they kick him outside a few plays I have maybe at the end of this video, but his pass rushing skills from inside, I think I put 3 or 4 sacks in a row on here where he's just using swim moves and rip moves, and he has a pretty advanced repertoire for a young guy there. And just I love the push-pull move when he locks guys out with those long arms and you see him shed. He's really good at that stuff. And then I think I put a few hustle plays. I don't want to give it all away because we're going to feature this later in the week. But there's plays where he's a defensive tackle and he sprints down the line for bubble screens. This isn't your normal defensive tackle. This is an athlete that, could play multiple defensive line spots. And as you said, with Roy in tandem, you get 2 different parts to fit into your machine. And yeah, we raved about him. And then the more I did a deep dive, sitting here at my desk looking at things, I came away very excited about Odom.
Odom's, I almost think I'm missing something because I feel like he should be higher rated based on the way I've seen him play. It doesn't really add up to me. We could just be maybe he's got plays on tape that aren't as good. But when I watch him play, he's about the twitchiest defensive tackle we've gotten that I can really remember.
And when you said
maybe
3-star, yeah, you guys said 3-star at the beginning, and I kind of, was like, whoa, that's not what I would have expected after watching the tape. And how many times in the last 4 or 5 years have we seen the 3 stars go to 4 or 5 stars and the process catch up to these guys? Where there's a lot of film out there and a lot of guys for everybody to watch, but until you start doing deep dives and really getting into some game tape and, sitting there for 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I checked out the sophomore and junior stuff. I think sometimes when you sort these huddle pages, you have to be careful and you actually get the wrong video at the top. And when I'm sometimes flying around on the show, I think I may have watched sophomore last week because I put this tape on and I'm like, this isn't exactly what I remembered on the show.
It's still great. All right, yeah. Maxwell Roy, your thoughts on Maxwell Roy? Kind of a different, like I could see them playing together eventually. That's kind of, I love it when they get, if you look at the current defensive tackle rotation, they got Jack Spratt and his wife in there. You know what I mean? They got your lean, they got their squat, they got your fire hydrant types, and they got your longer guys. I do love a variety of body types, and Roy's a little bit different.
Yeah,
by the way, another guy from St. Joe's making a run at Glenville for the Pipeline of the Year award. Let's get Maxwell Roy up here. Good to go.
There you go. I'm going to start Maxwell Roy back here so we can all see him.
Right on.
Okay, see him inside there. And there you see the load. I mean, he's got some physical, I want to say his lower end, or he's got some base to him there. He's got a little more rear end than the last guy we watched here. He's the run stuffer, maybe the one technique, the guy that's going to blow up the middle there. I think he is more the anchor than the pass rusher. Maybe the one tech that's what they have him lined up there. And there's the extension of the arms that I fall in love with out of defensive lineman. When you can lock guys out and run them a yard deep in the backfield, that's about as dominating as defensive line play gets. You like to see him play down the line like that and be athletic for a big guy. So as you said, and we just said, here's our inside guy or our one technique, and Odom's the 3 technique. You put these 2 in there as a pair, and you have the thicker, more powerful run stuffer. Look at him just drive those guys back into the backfield. Really impressive to see the strength out of him in there. So, yeah, nice tandem, nice get for Coach Johnson, with both these guys coming in at the same time. Let's see which one maybe gets on the field sooner, but they're definitely different types as you watch their high school tape.
Also, Mark, you mentioned when you were going over the tape of Odom that he could play all across the defensive line but more three technique. That's exactly what Odom heard from Larry Johnson. You could play all across our defensive line, but predominantly we look at you as a three technique. So it's right on the nose of what they've told Trajan and what he has in mind once he gets to Ohio State.
I don't want to overly geek out here, but it looks like Maxwell Rory's playing some 5 technique and a 3-4 there too. So he's got some burst to him. Very sweet to get to. Look, Ohio State has always done well with the skill guys. We know that. But your bread and butter is up front with the monsters. So good to go. All right, Bill, let's talk about an impending commitment tomorrow. This is a biggie. Werewolf, Justin Hill, and I don't use that term lightly. Winton Woods, one of the better defensive prospects to come through the state. What's the deal? Do you feel confident? Should we start worrying? The floor is yours, William.
Well, I have for some time said in my in-out feature, in my if I had to predict now features, I've consistently had him as in the Ohio State class. So I don't feel any different now than I did a week ago, 4 weeks ago, 2 months ago. I still like Ohio State's chances, and that, providing it happens, is huge. I mean, I think I've told you the story about Chad Murphy, the coach at Winton Woods. First time I was going to see him play, he said, "You're going to be wild, Bill." I was wild, to say the least. He really does it all. Great motor. He is relentless as a pass rusher. I think that's not to say he doesn't stop the run and do all that or run down ball carriers from 50 yards behind him. I saw that the night I was at his game. But he is a really focused guy on getting into the backfield and finding the football, particularly if the quarterback has that ball.
Mark, I'm going to bring up your video here. I think if the NFL could only have one body type and 22 guys on the field of one kind, this would be their choice. You are going to the NFL. If you can stay healthy, these guys go to the NFL. They can be used in so many ways. I'm not even talking about special teams. Please take it away.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Brody Lennon, and
No.
Justin Hill?
Justin Hill, yeah.
Okay,
So
I say this is the Brody Lennon tape. So
that's okay. We can wait and pull that one up in a sec.
Yeah, Justin Hill, you're right. That body type, that 6'5", 220 pounds, 230 pounds, you take as many of those guys as possible, and you see where they end up. Do they end up at 260? Do they stay at 230? Or are they – I mean, there's a college coach I know that anytime we watch a 6'5", 230-pound guy and we're like, I don't know what he is. He's something. Right. And you don't have to know you don't have to have the answer right now. Don't be scared that you don't have the answer right now. With Justin Hill, he's your werewolf type, but that is the rare body type. Now, that same thing, as you were describing that, I thought you were describing Brody Lennon, because I kind of thought he was one of the best all-round football players in Ohio. He did it all, where at 6'4", whatever he is, 230, 240, he's got that body type too, where I put in this breakdown, I'm going to pause this for a second, where he plays nose man. And if he wanted to get to 280 or something, maybe he's a nose man or a 3 technique on defense. He plays defensive end, and he gets to the pass rusher. I think he had 13 sacks and 30 tackles for loss. He gets off the ball. He could be a defensive lineman if he chose to do that in college. At tight end, when we'll start watching the tape here, they use him everywhere, which is why I think he's going to be so valuable when he gets to Ohio State. He could play the H-back, fullback, move him out to the slot. He blocks on the edge. He's kind of doing a lot of dirty work that, as the fullback position de-evolved, the H-back, wingback position evolved for tight ends. And he's got that. You see him blocking in space there. He's a finisher. He runs his feet. He's one of those guys that has that nasty attitude where he wants to win the play. And you see him in line. Now you see him, rubbing off the guys up to the next level. I mean, he really does it all. You see him out on the edge, the slot blocking. I mean, how many different places can they line him up where we can, feature what he does? In motion is where they're going to use him sometimes to get out here on the edge. So Gilmore Academy, give their coordinator credit. They used him to set the strength. They used him to go back across to the strength. And then in man-to-man, that was Bo Jackson rubbing off of him there, if that looked familiar. But he can beat guys one-on-one. He gets down the seam here. If there's cover zero, he runs by linebackers like they're not there. And then when you put him man-to-man out there versus a corner, he's going to run right by the corner and take this to the house. So when I say great football player, what is this kid not doing on tape that you need to see him do? And to the factor in that he probably ran 21 miles an hour, or did some of the camps this summer, and you see that in the open field. As soon as he opened it up, look at those kids blur behind him. So run after the catch with the bubble screens. I mean, very, very versatile, and I use that word a lot, but those are the kids that make it at Ohio State, the kids that can be doing more than what they need to do. If you ask this kid to do something, he's got a pretty good shot to give it, on offense or defense, he's going to get it done. I mean, very impressive tape. I mean, and if you've watched this highlight tape, it's 20-some minutes long. It goes forever. I mean, there's plenty of defense. We didn't even watch his defense here where I think there's Bucknutters that say, okay, if this doesn't work out at tight end, let's put him on defense. And, one of the comparisons, not to give everything away, but wasn't Cade Stover a defensive player when he showed up at Ohio State? So these kids that
in
can
high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so these kids that do it all, it doesn't mean you're pigeonholed into being one thing or the other. He's something, and just get him on campus and see where the development takes him and see where your team's needs take you. Do we need to move tight end? Do we need help on defense? I think Cade Stover even flipped back and forth a couple times before he finally settled at tight end. So I see that type of similar path for Brody Lennon.
Yeah, he's impressive. I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy, but if you look at his face and his helmet, he kind of looks like Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Not going to lie. Seriously, if you got a quick look at him, no problem with that. All right, let's do this here. I've got to give you guys our next sponsor, Pat Murphy's favorite, the Pat Murphy Special Joy Mode. Okay, if you need a personal reference, Pat does a YouTube show on this particular product. And I think I speak for most men when I say we want to have better sex. And for the sake of our partner, we may need to have better sex. That's why we partnered with our friends over at Joy Mode, Mark. The issue is that over-the-counter erection pills contain unregulated chemicals, suggest unsafe doses, and include the risk of several other health problems. Whether you're looking to spice up your intimate moments or increase your confidence in the bedroom, Joy Mode makes all natural and science-backed supplements dedicated to helping men perform better across their core functions. Their trademark product, the Sexual Performance Booster, is every man's solution for increased performance. All right, go to usejoymode.com/Bucknuts and get 20% off with the code Bucknuts at checkout. 20% off and free shipping with the code Bucknuts at usejoymode.com/Bucknuts. Great sex solved naturally. Guess who's not reading ads for at least 6 days? This guy. All right. Let's take some questions. We had a bunch. I'm going to go back to the top, so apologize for me scrolling way up. You guys have been great. Holy cow. Look at this. This is awesome. William, with Dorian Brew gone and Trey McNutt on the way out, do we stand pat or do we grab another corner and safety? Brew is gone. Is McNutt on the way out? And then you can take it from there.
Well, just to make one thing clear or clarify, McNutt has not announced a commitment to anyone. And we'll see what happens. But he hasn't announced anything. He's taken his 4 official visits in June, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, if they could get him, that would be a great addition to the class. But nothing is final. Well, nothing is even final as a verbal commitment at this point. He has not made one. As far as who else might be out there, who might they get yet, the other name is Messiah Dahome. He is a safety out of Virginia that made an official visit to Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Ohio State. We'll see what happens with him. He has also not yet made a commitment. Do they go into the season and see what they think of Dwayne Galloway from here in Columbus? That's certainly Ohio State knows that they are in the position that they can flip guys. They can wait and flip guys. They always do a great job of creating other options. So we'll see what happens. They don't usually rush into anything. Remember way back, we were talking about the tight end situation, and they didn't get the shot kid from Indiana. They wanted a second tight end, an H-back type guy. And I said, hey, there's two guys now to keep in mind. The kid from St. Xavier who ended up committing elsewhere, Cincinnati St. Xavier, and Brody Lennon. The St. Xavier guy ended up he is going to sign as a defensive lineman. He was more of the traditional, I think, blocker tight end. Lennon, I loved him for his receiving skills. I think he's more of the H-back guy that they were looking for, and that's the guy they got. But the point is they had two options in mind, and they got one of them eventually. So they'll create options if they need to.
Bill, I was actually surprised Dorian Brew committed to Oregon. Were you?
Yeah. If you looked across the landscape, I don't know of anybody that before he committed, and I mean anybody anywhere that had him predicted for Oregon. So yeah, I think that was industry wide a bit of a surprise.
Uncle Phil getting it done. All right. Jarquez Carter, your thoughts?
Well, he has not made his decision yet. In fact, he has still, or he has an announcement date of July 18th to make his decision at Ohio State, Miami, UCF, Penn State. I'd probably go with Miami as things stand right now for him, but he will announce on July 18th.
Linebacker Bill Riley. There's a couple questions on this, so I want to go with the Owusu Boateng. I'm even lucky I got that out. And Riley Pettijohn from Texas are the two linebackers in focus. Pettijohn's commitment is coming up, is it not? And the tea leaves taste like Ohio State, but now I feel like there's a little late surge by his home state Longhorns. Where are we at?
Well, there is a third linebacker in there too. Jaden Harmon, the Alabama commitment, has not yet made. He's still committed to Alabama, but made an official visit to Ohio State. He hasn't made a final declaration that he is unequivocally staying with Alabama. So that one is not a complete finished item yet. Then the other two you mentioned, Riley Pettijohn and Nathaniel Owusu Boateng. I talk about this in my VIP article this morning on Bucknuts. Pettijohn is going to announce this Saturday, July 6th, and it is going down to the wire. It is between Ohio State and USC. Actually, Texas is running fourth right now. Texas A&M third. That's his 4 official visits. But it would be a huge shock to me if he went anywhere but Ohio State or USC. What we don't know is which one is he going to pick. Both schools are still working, and as I've mentioned in my article this morning, both schools have confidence that they can get him. We'll see what happens on Saturday. Boateng, I still think the likely place for him is Notre Dame. I think they have the edge right now. Boateng is Ohio State. He's visited Michigan. He's visited USC, and then he's visited Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has the edge at this point for him.
If Notre Dame doesn't get Owusu Boateng, that's a loss for them because his brother's on the Browns and he went to Notre Dame. So come on now. Terry Slusher, do we get Preston Bowman, David Sanders, Riley Pettijohn, Malik Autry, Justin Hill would help our number one class, as I struggled for first names there. Mark, what do you think of Preston Bowman? That's an in-state guy, wide receiver, which is not the easiest offer to get in these parts. Your vibes.
Yeah, this is a kid that was in my top 4 or 5 receivers in Ohio all year. When he showed up at the Ohio State camp, he showed up thicker and bigger than I remembered him, meaning he kind of had that running back look, and I think I said this exact quote on the last show. I don't want to say he's Deebo Samuel, but that type of receiver, the run after the catch, you'll see guys try to arm tackle him, and he could probably run through that with some of his strength. So he'd be a run after the catch guy. He had a great camp, and I remember, that day they were talking about the preferred walk-on offer, and he's a guy that might be able to, be local, and they might be able to steal him. Well, now he's got the offer, and, if he was a part of this class, he's a nice tool to have in the tool belt. If you've noticed this year, it seems like there's more Ohio guys that are getting a chance with Ohio State. It's almost Tressel-esque, where back in the day, Tressel would, maybe have a couple more Ohio kids to fill out the class. And it seems like this is a pretty big class numbers-wise, Bill. It seems like this, scholarship count get higher and higher every time I, check in on it. But that's the type of kid locally that I would keep an eye on. Kentucky, I know wants to hold on to him and make them a featured part of their class, sort of like the Cleveland Heights running back, Marquise Davis. They're trying to make them feel special, and they're the guy. But Ohio State being in your backyard, that's quite a gravitational pull.
Tell you what, I wonder if they are loading the back end of the classes now with Ohio guys because they're less likely to boogie. And your top end of your class are the guys who are getting all the monster checks. So I wonder if they're not trying to balance that out. I don't know if that's – I have no –
Actually, I wrote about that, Dan, saying basically, especially in the wide receiver category, you stack these 5-star guys on top of 5-star guys, they all expect to play. And I mean play in
and get the ball.
One.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen, and then they go transfer. You've got to have some guys that are willing to stick around for a couple years, be developed, and then play. So, it doesn't do a whole lot of good to say, oh, you got all these 5-stars at a position, and then several of them are gone after 1 to 2 years. You just got to have some guys that are willing to be developed. And, in the case of Bowman, some people, Ohio State offered him, he's going there. I talked to a source that right after that offer came who said, hey, this is not one of those where it's automatic. He's committed to Kentucky, and Ohio State is going to have to convince him to change his mind. So, we'll see what happens. Marquise Davis ended up committing, and everybody said, not everybody, but a lot of people said he's going to flip to Michigan. I haven't seen that happen, and I don't expect it to.
All right, let's get some finishing touches on this here. Oh, this is what I want to do. My legal obligation. David Sanders. Rick Montoya asks, and he asks for a lot of people. Has Sanders committed yet? And if not, what are our chances of landing him? All right, Bill. Do you get a sense of when he's going to commit, who he's going to commit to, how geeked we should be? Because this is becoming the sound of minstrel's commitment that you'll just be driving in your car and you'll just feel something. And you know David Sanders committed. Give us the latest.
Well, and arguably the top guy left to get. And there, if you look at that, I mentioned this morning. I think Ohio State has 22 commitments right now, and there are 20 guys that left that if you told me any of the 20 were to pick Ohio State, it wouldn't completely blow me away. They have a chance at a lot of guys still. But nobody, in my mind, is absolutely more important than David Sanders. Justin Hill, unbelievably important. But because of need, Ohio State's got such a need at offensive tackle and offensive line. As far as where he's going, nothing has changed in my mind. I think it's going to be Ohio State or Tennessee. I can tell you that his parents really have warmed up to Ohio State with these last few visits he's made to Ohio State. There was a proximity factor. I think Ohio State has gotten over that. And I say proximity, and I mean that leaving SEC country, so to speak, leaving the South. Ohio State's the only school out of the South or SEC country or ACC that, and I'm not sure there is country anymore. You've got Pac, and you've got Oregon and USC at the Big Ten. But I really think Ohio State has gotten over that. I think both schools, in fact, I know both schools have presented fantastic packages to him, and that obviously includes NIL. I think in the end, it's going to come down to where he really feels he wants to be. A little extra money here or there for either school, I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor. It's going to be where do you want to be, David Sanders, and it'll be one of the two schools.
You know, they made a movie about that position, The Blind Side, and as it turns out, I don't think things have gone well for that family since. But the point still remains, and if you read the beginning of the book it was based on, there's only so many dudes on the earth built like David Sanders, and you have to try and go get them. It started with trying to block Lawrence Taylor one-on-one with Joe Jacoby from Theater Vision. Anyone from the DC area will get that. But they're just hard to get, man, and we have had a hard time getting them. So that would just be incredible. And as Mark said, it will take an RSP, a record-setting package.
Somebody on the board just mentioned Bowman's mom works at Ohio State. She absolutely does, but that's not going to be the deciding factor there.
So, yeah. John, I don't think you need to worry about that. Let's hope Puppy Love doesn't make the decision for Sanders. He's no puppy. He's a big dog, and we need him, and hopefully we'll get him. You'll see these guys again. What's today? Today's Tuesday?
Tuesday.
It's all running together, but at least I got the month correct. JUL is much better than JAN. So yeah, we'll be all over. We will not be back on Thursday, and then we'll be back next Tuesday. Lord knows what they can accomplish in a week. These guys will be on it. Have a good one, Bucknutters.